Hi, I'm Becky and welcome back to another episode of Diet Culture Can Fork Off. If you don't know me already, I help women who are done with the diets, done with the cycles, done with starting again every single Monday and finally sort out their relationship with food and their body for good. Basically rebelling against that diet culture that I talk about all the time. But it's really getting down to the real stuff that's underneath. I work with women through my one-to-one Empower coaching or through my Misfit Club group coaching, and that's my 6-week program for women who want to break the all or nothing mindset and cycles for good. So I've been waiting to do this one for a while, and it's something that's been popping up in my comments recently, and it's basically pushed me to just get on with it and come on here and speak about it because I keep seeing this thing and I really want to talk about it, like, honestly, today, where women get accused of being the ones like to tear other women down, like, we're the problem. Like, and I see it all the time, usually from men saying, well, women are the worst. Or sometimes it comes from women, to be honest, like, women are the worst. Women tear each other down all the time. That's where this is coming from. And I really need you to stay with me because I'm really going to unpack this because it's really not simple. And if you think it is, then honestly, please keep listening because I think you're going to feel really differently by the end of this. So today we're talking about comparing. Why women compare themselves to other women. Why do women make comments or tear other women down? Where that actually comes from and why and when we do it, it's not a character flaw. It's a learned response to a system that was designed to make us do exactly that. So a couple of episodes ago, I talked about body objectification theory. So you can go back and listen to that if you haven't done so already, because this kind of builds on this theory. But the short version is there's a theory called body objectification theory, and that was developed by Fredrickson and Roberts back in 1997. And what it says is that women, through living in a culture that consistently evaluates their bodies from an external perspective, start to do that to themselves. They internalize that outside gaze. So we become the observer of our own bodies. And here's what's important for today's conversation. When you've learned to see yourself through that lens, like the constant assessing, rating, measuring, you inevitably start doing it to other women too. Like, it's the same lens, it doesn't switch off. So when diet culture teaches you that your worth is tied to what your body looks like, comparison becomes almost automatic. You look at another woman and your brain, without even being asked, is doing that assessment. Not because you're a bad person, not because you're a bitch or anything like that. It's because you've been trained to do it, okay? So now here's a bit I really want people to hear. There's a comment that I see all the time in my DMs, in my comment, especially in my comments really. Sometimes from people who are genuinely confused and sometimes from people who want to dismiss everything I'm saying. And it goes something like, but it's women who tear each other down. Women invented this. Women are the problem, okay? And I really understand what that looks like or why that looks like on the surface, like it does. Because a lot of the comparisons, a lot of the nastiness, a lot of the policing of other women's bodies does come from women. And I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't. But we need to ask the question, who created the conditions for that to actually happen? So Naomi Wolf wrote about this in The Beauty Myth. I know there's mysteries around Naomi Wolf now, but I'm going to talk about what she actually discussed in The Beauty Myth and not what she's up to now. So this idea that as women gained more political and economical power, beauty standards were ramped up as a backlash. A way to keep women focused on their appearance rather than their power, which I discuss a lot on my page as well. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's just what happened. The standards didn't get more intense because women suddenly cared more about how they looked. They got more intense because a cultural benefit from women being insecure and they needed to find ways to keep them there. As Susie Orbach wrote as well in Fat is a Feminist Issue, about how women's relationship with food and their bodies is not a personal failing, it's a political reality. The way women eat or restrict or obsess or feel shame, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens inside a culture that tells women that their bodies is a project to be managed. So when we're asking why women compare each other, we need to zoom out, because the behaviour didn't come from nowhere. Let's talk about 1970s for a second, because this is a really important piece of the puzzle. Women in the 1970s were going to court, literally fighting legal battles, the right to be promoted at work based on their skills rather than their appearance, or even hold down their jobs. These weren't abstract debates, they were real cases, real women arguing that they were being denied opportunities because of how they looked. Betty Friedan was writing about the feminine mystique, the idea that women's identity has been reduced to the role as wives and mothers and objects of desire, and women were fighting back against that. But here's, what we really want to look at, is this era, because it also created a framework where appearance was currency. If promotions, opportunities, social acceptance, if those things were allocated partly based on how you looked, then other women stopped being sisters and they started being competitors. Not because women were naturally competitive or naturally cruel, because a system turned appearance into a resource, into that currency. And when a resource is scarce, people compete for it. So that's a glass ceiling, really, isn't it? It's not just about women being blocked from reaching the top. It's about the conditions that were created along the way. Conditions that told women they had to fight each other for that limited space that was being offered to them. This is a bit I really, really want you to sit with as well, because I think it's the most important, is this comparing, this tearing down, it is learned. It is not who we are. It is not our nature. Research on social comparison, and this goes back to Leon Festinger's social comparison. Hope I said his name right there. I'm not very good at pronouncing some of these names. Social comparison theory from the 1950s tells us that humans naturally compare themselves to others as a way of evaluating themselves, and that's a neutral survival instinct. But the direction of that comparison, the intensity of it, the way it gets pointed specifically at women's bodies and appearances, that's cultural, that's taught. We were taught that our value was in how we looked. We were taught that beauty was scarce, that there was only so much of it to go around, and if you had it, it was somehow a threat to you. If someone else had it, it was somehow a threat to you through. And that's not biology. That's messaging. It's advertising. It's media. It's the way women were talked about in every corner of culture that we were growing up in. And when I look back at the younger version of me, I know I had those thoughts. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I was always perfectly immune to this. I've had moments of comparison, moments of feeling threatened, moments where I probably said that off comment, not malicious, not out of hatred, but out of this conditioned response, she's competition, she's a threat, you're measuring yourself against someone as well. And it's taken me years to understand that threat wasn't real. That was a feeling, it was a product of a system that needed me to feel that way, because women who support each other are more powerful than women who compete. And we already know that, don't we? We know deep down that basically I feel like they try to conquer and divide, and that's why we are so separated, and we need more of the sisterhood. That's what we need. So what do we do with all of this? First, recognition. I always say awareness, recognition, that's the first step, because this is everything. When you catch yourself comparing, when you catch yourself feeling that flicker of satisfaction when someone else is struggling, or that kick of something that looks like envy, don't shame yourself for it. Just recognize it, name it, and say, oh, okay, that's the conditioning talking. Because it is. and you can choose not to feed it. You can notice it, you've got the awareness there, but observe it from the observer view, because it's not actually you speaking. Rather than internalizing it, let's start making sure we recognize that this is an external voice. Second of all, we need to stop directing our anger at others, and we start directing it in the right place. So for example, when someone does attack me online, and it happens quite often, quite frequently, I'm sure some of you have seen, and sometimes it is a woman, it is men as well, but sometimes it is a woman. I'm not going to respond by attacking how they look, okay, because that would be feeding directly into the system, that exact system that I spent my whole life trying to push against. So I'll argue my point, I'll call out the behaviour, but I will not go personal. I will not make it out about someone's appearance, because that's not who I am anymore, and it shouldn't be who any of us are either. So be very conscious of it's very easy to think, well, they're saying this about me, but look at the way they look, or look at the way I am. But actually that's just feeding into it. So this is what I say. I always think that if someone can't respond to me in an educated way, or actually have rather than talking about what I'm saying in my videos or in my reels, they're going to attack my appearance. I mean, I just think, well, they want to bring me down and they've got nothing else to say. They're not even going to take the time they probably haven't read or watched or looked at anything that I've actually said. So I will call them out on that. I would just say, and I did it the other day actually, someone, is one of the ones that I put up on my post, that she came in attacking my appearance quite a few times, telling me I had a low IQ, I didn't know what I was talking about, but all I went back is she did this quite a few times. I was like, look, I haven't said anything about your appearance or the way you are. I'm disagreeing with what you're saying. That's and it sits so much better with me to do that. I don't know about you, but when I've said not very nice things in the past about maybe a woman's appearance or something, it makes me feel really icky after. And it's probably because it's not really me and it doesn't really align with my values. Obviously, that's younger me. As I said, I've done a lot of work on this myself. But yeah, it doesn't mean that you're rolling over and taking it. It's setting boundaries, and you can still have those boundaries. You can still say, I'm not going to debate this, or I'm not going to engage with abuse. But there's a difference between setting a boundary and retaliating in kind. Thirdly, and genuinely, really not in a toxic positivity way, because I don't like that either. We try to see women as the people that they are, rather than the system, how the system wants us to see them. Because when women polices other women's body, she's doing the system's work for it. And most of the time, she doesn't even know she's doing it. She was just handed the same tools the rest of us were handed. And maybe she hasn't come to that realization yet that that's what's going on. So all we can hope for is the more we talk about this, the more we bring it to people's attention, the more we can have these open discussions about it, hopefully it will connect with others. And it's okay to be I was that person, and now I've realised why I was speaking like that. And why I have this voice, because it's okay to say I done that, and I've now since learned. I think sometimes we hold too much faith, and we don't. No, I don't believe that. Blah, blah, blah. It's okay to say, yeah, I was like that, and now I've learned differently. It's what we all do. I'm not perfect. I've obviously, everyone's made mistakes in their past. Everyone's done things they're not proud of. Everyone's said things they're not proud of. But understanding, that wasn't very nice of me. That's not a person that I want to be. That's not someone I want to continue to be. And making changes. It's okay to do that. And to be honest, I've got a lot of respect for people that do that too. So the next time someone says to you, it's women who are the problem, you can hold that complexity. Yes, sometimes women perpetrate this. Yes, sometimes it comes from women. And yes, it was installed by a system that knew exactly what it was doing when it pitted us against each other. Diet culture needs us to compare. It needs us to look at another woman and feel like we're not measuring up. Because the second we stop doing that, the second we look at her and think she's not my competition, she's my person, the whole thing starts to fall apart. And that's exactly where we are. I do want to add to this as well, like, we're not going to ever get on with every single person, and every single person that we meet, they will have different values or different alignments, and that's okay. Not everyone has to I'm happy that, there's not every person is going to agree with what I say. Not everyone is going to like me, but that's okay, because there's certain people that have certain beliefs and certain values that I'd be worried if they did. I'd be like, hang on, this is not my views or not my values, and I'm worried why you like me, to be honest. But that's okay. But I'm not going to go and start picking those women's appearances apart. And that's the difference. It's like, we can not agree on these things. We can have a debate. We can have a conversation. But the minute it starts becoming against appearance and a personal attack, that's the system. And that's the system we're trying to break. So that's it from me this week. I love talking about this stuff, and thank you so much for all of those shares, those likes. Like I said, share this podcast, like the podcast, give me a review, because it goes a long way. I love talking about these topics. The more, I am so passionate about helping women break this system. It's why I put so much effort and work into doing what I do, and showing up every day, educating myself, immersing myself in this world daily, so I can provide not only for my clients but for all of you guys as well, constantly. And thank you for listening. If you do want to know more about my coaching, and because I dive deep into this stuff to help my clients to really break diet culture for good, if you're ready to join that rebellion, then check out the links below in the show notes. But apart from that, have the most wonderful day. And remember, awareness is key.